Well, for a little bit more on this, we're now joined by Professor Khulufelo Rakubu, who's a criminologist from the Tshwane University of Technology. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
All right, what do you make of the preparation by the police this time around, especially when we look back at what people deemed to be a failure when we saw those riots in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal?
This is a confused response because they're trying to revive themselves. They try to clean up where they think they failed. Remember, with the 2021 protest, it was clear that South Africa was not ready to handle such. So now, tomorrow, they don't even have an idea where those protests will take place. And I don't think they are well prepared enough to even handle a shutdown or protest wherein you don't know key areas, because where you focus much, it might not be where you are needed. So this is very confusing, and I don't think our law enforcement is muscled enough to even attend to this.
There's something very different about this anyway, just in terms of the way that it's organized and the way that it's proposed to be executed. I just wonder what you expect, given what you've heard and the nature of the call.
What to expect? Obviously, our protests are normally violent. We have a violent nature, and this will open room for opportunist criminals. Tomorrow, although a particular party might have might be wishing for a peaceful protest, it's not going to be a peaceful protest because South Africans are very frustrated due to socio-economic conditions and due to South Africa's response to high rate of crime, and you talk of load shedding and many other issues. So the protest or the shutdown present an opportunity for fellow South Africans to just react the way they wish to. And again, this is all a political agenda. Obviously, a party saw an opportunity and now is playing with that, is riding on that opportunity. So South Africans, indeed, they are frustrated. But with the response, how do you now handle a frustrated citizen, an opportunist citizen? So I don't know how law enforcement tomorrow is going to ensure safety when other elements are working against the government because of government's ineffective response in many areas.
What might likely be the sparks that see things escalating? Because typically people start off peaceful and then we see elements of group thinking that starts to kick in as people lose their individuality. But what normally sparks some kind of escalation?
Police presence, in particular, SNDF members in particular, we do have history where there's normally a clash. When you see them, obviously it's on. And again, I wish to see if we're going to go with the smoke culture. Remember, with our protest, we normally get attention through smoke or escalation. And we must expect, I'm not so sure about vandalism because it has always been there. Obviously, I'm not so sure from the other party's position when it comes to controlling South Africans, because they've opened a can of worms with this. Most South Africans, I'm sure they've been wishing for this kind of opportunity. And what would transpire tomorrow, I don't think it's basically what the party had planned, because although they have an understanding of the level of frustration, but I do not think they have prepared on their side to handle this in the right way, because elements of lawlessness are going to be there. And not everybody who is it's not going only to be EFF members, just community members. And some might be working against EFF to what? To even damage more. And it will end up in the name of EFF.
I wonder also, because of the nature of these protests, which are largely going to be spontaneous, some will be led, but there'll be a lot that's not led. Those ones that are not led can become quite anarchic. And I wonder what happens to a crowd when there is no one really leading it.
What happens to a crowd when no one is leading? They're all leaders. And they, like I said, opportunists will be there. And all others that have grudges against government will be there. Because this culture of lawlessness, like I said, and they said there has been a precedent set in South Africa where we haven't seen much happening to people that have been found guilty of a violent protest. We don't have examples, with regard to how many are serving sentence for burning a school in particular. So tomorrow, one with a grudge against a particular school might even bomb that particular school. One with a grudge against a particular hospital might even do certain things there. So tomorrow, let's expect heightened level of criminality here and there and poor reporting, because tomorrow law enforcement is against the community. So where do you run to?
Do you think that everybody is clear about what tomorrow is about? I remember 2011, I was in London at the time, and there were riots that took place there. And it started off in the north of the city, and it quickly spread.
Yeah.
As journalists, we were asking the people on the ground, what are you doing this for? And they couldn't quite articulate it, but they just joined in.
Yes.
And I wonder if we're going to see similar types of things where people not quite sure why they're on the streets and why they're marching, or is there clarity about what this is?
I don't think there's clarity. However, common understanding is that we need electricity. So everybody's feeling like the state has got electricity. So, and remember, since it is organized by a particular political party, others might even think it's just to oust the president or to destabilize governance. So now, what they're going to do, others are just going to join, because there's a culture of joining, not knowing why. Some will be joining because they are unemployed, and some will be joining because they decided to drop out of varsity or colleges. So tomorrow is just status frustration and analysis of everybody has their own frustration, but tomorrow, because we have a culture of deserving, tomorrow, whatever I did not get from government, I am going to be joining, because, okay, commonly, we don't want load shedding anymore.
All right. So no matter what the politicians might be saying,
yes,
people have got a general level of frustration about one thing or another.
Others are talking of water.
Right.
Tomorrow they'll be protesting because of water. Others are talking of poor roads or poor road service delivery. Others are talking about lack of infrastructure or youth development capacities and so forth. So it's going to be a whole lot of melting pots tomorrow. So everything is going to be thrown in. I'm just worried about the culture of violence, because all of them are going to be acting out.
The police and the army are going to try and be as restrained as possible, but I suspect that at times they're going to be provoked deliberately.
It's common. It's common. Tomorrow they are enemies. Tomorrow their presence will be highly frustrating. And traditionally, community has to throw something to show that it's a strike. Remember the after moment. There should be moments. It should be well recorded. They should be taken serious. And there's bound to be smoke. I observed they are collecting tires here and there. I know for sure there'll be diversion. They will use other things than tires, and we might be shocked to not even see those, but there's going to be violence, there's going to be clashes.
All right, so the police are trained in theory to handle crowds and marches. That's not the function of the army, and we saw during the lockdown that the army wasn't quite prepared to do civilian type policing. Will we see that tomorrow?
They'll be provoked as well. Like I said, there will be enemies tomorrow, and they are not well prepared. They are not trained to do such. They are not trained to deal with the vagabonds who will just be throwing paraffin, for example. So they are bound to respond. So it's going to be the episode 2 continuation. But what I'm also interested in is South Africa's response with regard to, should you be involved in violence? Should you vandalize schools or roads and so forth, what happens to you? There seems to be laxity from the criminal justice system when it comes to dealing with such, because community members think they can just ban whatever they want to ban and it's going to be business as usual. So I wish to see how government is going to set the bar or change the norm when it comes to that, because it has always been like that. To date, we don't even know how many people were arrested for banning schools in previous other provinces, and it's business as usual. So tomorrow, can we now get a response from government should one decide to do that? Because tomorrow cars will just be vandalized. Tomorrow people will be stabbed just for being part of the match. So it's going to be very violent. I'm even scared.
Yeah, it is very concerning. Let's just hope, though, that sanity will prevail as much as possible.
Let's hope so. And deterrence, there should have been aspects of generic deterrence, wherein should one decide to go, or not to go, going they should go. It's their democratic rights. But violence, to what extent because they've been involved in that. Media has shown multiple areas damaged, and there's non-repercussion when it comes to that. So tomorrow, are we still going to add more on level of violence? And remember, whatever violence takes place tomorrow, it's going to add on the upcoming crime statistics, and it's also going to jeopardize South Africa's standing when it comes to international policing standards. So tomorrow is trial and error.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave it there, and let's see what happens. But let's hope that it is managed one way or another.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope so. Let's hope the element of lawlessness are dealt with.
Thank you so much indeed for
you.
joining us tonight.
Thank you.